So I would like to know, did you underwent the methods, the tools that I gave you, the visualization? I would like to know the taste. How was it tasteful? Was it not useful? Did you expect something more? Now, let's talk about fundamentals. Fundamentally, if we were not to use words, we would use symbols. A lot of people would associate this figure that I drew with a human being. That's simple. Now, a child is born, right? There we go. You got some hair. The child is born, came into this world, right? Onto this planet, physical realm. Okay? So fundamentally, if we're gonna look at things, we need to do it without placing a label. But we have to use labels in order for us to deliver the communication. So what I'm doing right now, I'm vocalizing so you can follow the ideas along. Can we agree on the following statement? If you see in this video, you exist in some form. Regardless if I use the word exist or coexist. A lot of people are gonna be very precisely listening for words and for them to criticize the words instead of the communication, the idea, the mental construct that I'm trying to deliver. Because again, your actual experience, it doesn't matter. You can't really use words to describe it. You can assign words to provide the descriptive, but it's not the experience itself. That's a fundamental truth. You can talk about like punching somebody. If you went and boom, hit somebody and you took out tooth and they start bleeding, you can start using the words, right? By experience itself, you don't have to use words. Child that is born, what do they do first? They hear if they have hearing. They have eyes. If they have eyes, they observe, right? And they make sound, okay? Vocal, sound. You know, so their communication is going to be different compared to this a teenager or an adult, right? These teenager might grow into, you know, an adult. Okay? So there's different levels of your experience. The question is, with the amount of time you have left, how do you want to live your life? Some people continue invest, spend their time, try to determine what things are, because they feel so confused and they feel like they're losing in life. Why? Because they don't have a strong foundation. Their fundamental worldview, perception, is completely set up in a particular way, programmed, conditioned by others that they themselves did not did a due diligence. A lot of people went through first-hand experience, and they're like, I'm still confused. And now they don't want to even take action. Why? Because there's different elements, aspects. Once you came into the physical world, a lot of things external, right? Your parent could be affecting this guy, right? This guy might be affecting this guy. This guy might be, and there's a lot of elements why you are the way you are. But here's the thing: how many people took time to really dissect who you are and try to give you, or took time to really determine who you are, what you're good at, try to help you, guide you, develop you. Uh, this channel is for those who feel like, look, there's a lot of questions that are still unanswered. I try religion, I try God, I try, life in a different way, form, but I still don't have answer who I am at the basic level. And that's a difficult part, because I wasn't that part for many, many, many years. It took me, I've done some interesting experiment where I reset my whole thing, and I felt like I was a child in an adult body. Imagine this child in an adult body. Guess what? That's a tough one, because you know how to speak and stuff like that. But here's the thing: once the child is born, they don't speak words. You can observe every child, what they're capable. They observe, they repeat, they copy, they test, right? First they lay in their back, then they try to roll over to their stomach, then they try to use their knees, right? And then they try, it's a step-by-step process. But during those step-by-step processes, people are different. I understand that. And there's many different elements. So if I give you basic fundamentals, it won't matter which area, because you will be able to determine on your own what you need to do, instead of like try to seek somebody and like try to figure out, well, if this was the case or this was the case. Well, no, we have ability to bypass all of the elements, right? But you have to have a basic comprehension of certain things. If you don't have comprehension of certain things, you just need a working model, right? And we're talking about who is this? What is this? Who you are at the core, right? You probably have heard from religious contacts. Here's the spirit, soul, and body. What if I tell you that there's actually one more element to this? That's very important. What does each word actually mean? A lot of people don't know what's the soul, they don't know what's the spirit. Okay? Somebody place a label based on their comprehension, or maybe they just heard somebody say, and then they're like, well, I just gonna communicate the same stuff to somebody else. Well, guess what? That's gonna confuse you, because if you're relying on somebody else's methodology of how they see life, but themselves they haven't tested, nor came to that conclusion on their own with, and here's the thing, I'm not saying that you should be like saying, well, I just believe it, I just do it. No, I'm here to guide you, help you, right, to ease your search. And a lot of things will make sense. So like if you agree to this point, you'll know that, hey, this is really, because you have to have some kind of ability to look at things, right? And you're like, well, it's an agreement, right? My biggest problem as a child was when I've looked at things, people said one thing, in the Christian Bible, it was written something else. People were doing completely different things. And then in actuality, right, the result becomes completely different. So why am I trying to rely on things, on people who communicate to me whatever they believe, but at the same time, there's a conflict. So if there's a conflict, why am I should be paying the price? If somebody said that, hey, if you were to do this, you're gonna get this, okay. And you see, person can be naive, you can tell, but because they're naive because they don't have experience, not because they're actually naive because they're so foolish. No, they're not foolish. They just don't have data to compare. Okay, so I don't have data to compare against. But once I start obtaining data, observing, I start raising questions. And within Christianity, a lot of people did not like that. Why? Because I it wasn't like I tried to provoke somebody and say, well, your religion. No, no. I accepted it from initial beginning because I thought, well, it just did not make sense. If you have an adult child care for you, you're like, okay, if they really try to destroy me, why would they give me, first of all, why would they care about giving life? Second, why would they go to work and try to feed me, right? Why would they try to care for me? Sure, like maybe they're arguing, maybe they're saying things, and maybe I'm getting punished. But here's the thing: a lot of things that, a lot of elements, components, and then you basically structure your perception. And here's the thing: there's one more element. I'm telling you, from my firsthand experience and analysis of long term of what religion says, what Bible says, but I came to a conclusion, taking psychology in consideration, taking other elements, other traditions. And here's the thing: the last element that most people don't realize, the most important element, is the operator. You see, and this is how it looks. The operator at the center. Okay. Then you have right here, spirit. Okay. Then comes the soul. Okay. And then comes the body. So it's layers. And a lot of people will say, well, yeah, you have those chakras and stuff like that, right? I've looked into that. And then you have aura, so an energy field, and, people label them differently. But here's the thing: this is I would say, the basic. So you as an operator, the one who makes the decision, right? Then you have the spirit. That's your in the mental realm, okay? That's where your codes, the coding is done, right? So when I'm saying code, right? The code exists basically what you eat, what you hear, what you read, what you listen, right? That's the input. Code is the input. And code can be inputted through eyes, ears, touch, smell, mouth, right? There's many ways, because again, there's internal. That's your internal right here. The body, it's what separates from your internal to external. Okay? You follow me? So imagine this. So you have internal, and external, and your physical body, like a suit, it separates you, but you come in touch, in contact. Okay, so basic fundamental is that you as an operator, spirit, soul, body, is the layers of this suit, if you want, right? Like it's the suit. Think of diving suit, right? And it's layers, and different components does different thing. And I'll go into those things. But I'm trying to give you first basic fundamentals so you can determine how things are organized. So you can like, okay, if I am the operator, you operating with the code, right? That's your spirit, okay? This code, basically, when the news comes in, you listen, right? Boom, code, because you chose to put an input. Code is the input. Code can be food, can be music, can be news, can be somebody looking at you, right? Like anything is the input, it's basically has a program. That program, you as the operator, depending on what kind of programming you have and filtration system, depending on how you organize your internal hardware, right? A lot of people just will, other players, let's just not call people, call players. You're a player, okay? You're the main character. You're the I am in this game, right? Just like I am in this game. So I am playing right now in the physical realm, and my choice of a game is to provide the knowledge education through school, right? Through YouTube, through having personal one-on-ones. But I feel like if I can give this knowledge and give to many other players, they finally can better organize and better operate in the physical realm. Because a lot of times people I see, they're glitched out. They're like, I'm confused, I don't know what to do, right? If that's you, or you like, I have questions, I need the question to get answered, but without understanding the fundamentals, it's so difficult because like at the core, right? At the core, that's me, right? Operator. But operator, I don't know what to do. And then I gather information, right? Like, so imagine you as a jug, right? Empty jar. And what do you end up doing, right? So you as a jug, okay? Your experiences, your parents, they start giving something, right? All these external, right? Your physical body, right? And then things going inside, experience, sound, music, your experiences, and you get full with this, right? So internally, you obtain bunch of data, you obtain bunch of material, right? So your experience, music, it's a material that you can work with already if you know what you're doing, right? So as an operator, I'm in a suit so I can function in the physical reality. That's what it is. Simple, in the simple terms. So you as an operator, as a child, you're like, okay, you're like, I don't know where I came from. You observe, okay, those are faces. Those are players, okay? You found yourself within a particular family with that you're like, and why am I born in this family? Why am I having father and mother of this type, right? But here's the thing, if you understand the fundamental, it doesn't matter where you found yourself at. I'll give you another one, exercise. Imagine this, and this is my exercise. I'll give you two exercises. First exercise, imagine that you're lost, right? Imagine this, you're flying. Crashed. Snow mountains. Your ship, right? Completely destroyed. Spaceship, right? And you're like, okay, at least, and Imagine you have no memory where you were going. You're like, okay, where am I at? You don't even remember who you are at the core, right? Some people do, but you don't. And then what happens next? The next thing is that you crash in the mountains. It's cold. You don't understand what is what. You don't even know what is this ship is, right? Like you're like, okay, you see pieces. You can't even have a memory of a communication of anything. Imagine this: you start from scratch, and the scratch is this: you crashed. You have no memory. You don't know where you at. You don't know where you were supposed to go, and that's where your game begins. Now you look around. You're like, okay, it's cold. You're up the mountains, and everywhere is white. Which direction do you take? Really, which direction do you take? You're like, okay, it's cold. You feel it. You take on whatever you find, right? You can't even communicate because you even don't have words. You see the ship is broken, right? And then that's how most people are in this life. For from my experience, a lot of people are given something and they're just acting. They're given the direction. They're like, okay, I go there, right? But I, as a child, my story is like this. I wasn't born. People are like, what? You crazy? I wasn't born. I don't have a memory of being birthed, but I remember that my soul was supposed to get transferred, and it got transferred to this family instead of the other one. And then the current uh, mother, father, right, earthly bound parents, let's just call them that way. I They said that I didn't spoke to till I was like 4, and they were so afraid. But I remember I was sitting and observing, and I was like, why am I here? This is not where I was supposed to be. You see, when you were supposed to be where you're supposed to be, that's my story, right? Maybe your story is different, but that's a visualization that I went through, right? I was guided through, you want to call, something higher realm, higher spirit, God, whatever you want to call that, the creator, the father, right? He placed me on this planet. I was supposed to be transferred, but got transferred into the other family. And I question why am I here? Just kind of like lost at I was like, why am I here? So I start, and imagine this. So you're up the mountain, you crashed, right? Your um, spaceship got crashed. It's broken. Electricity like popping out, and you're like, and you finally gain consciousness. You look around. There's no map. There's nothing. But you know where the ship is at. That's the only thing you know. The starting point. You don't know why you're there. So for me, I was like, what is this? So I try to start fixing the ship. Because I saw that, hey, I crashed. This is a starting point. Now I need to go somewhere. But why do I need to even go somewhere? I have the broken ship. Why? What happened? So I try to gather this much data on the spot before I could even make any move, because I don't know this planet. I don't know this physical realm. Very cautious, very observant. Is this a safe place? If it is, why am I in a broken ship? Why am I have no memory? So questioning those things. Okay? Imagine that as a child. And you can't even talk to nobody. And you start questioning about the dreams, why you fall asleep, why can't you remember things. You have to understand that once you have the ship fixed, your understanding, things become a lot different than when you just began. So I want to give you guys this particular exercise. So now start gathering about yourself, data. You know, there are a lot of companies, data companies, they collect so much data just because you're using a laptop, right? Using a laptop, a phone, and they're collecting data and they analyze it. They're creating a signature of who you are to better understand who you are. Now, if you were to collect data like I did about myself, because I understood one thing. If somebody find value collect data about myself, about me, why am I not doing it to learn who I am? I need to know the basic fundamentals. Just because somebody told me you're a spirit, soul, and body, soul, spirit, right? But yet, I as a child, I questioned every word that came out of my parents. I was like, I don't understand. I do not understand. I do not comprehend. And I wasn't using words. I was confused. I was just observing. People blurring. And they associate the words with something particular. But here's the thing. The problem with that, the huge problem with that, is that you assume, but here's the thing, this is what I observe. Same exact word, same type of communication, but one side saying, hey, you misinterpreted. And some people call it a joke, right? And then the way how they communicate, they're like, well, you should have known this. My parents are like, well, I communicate to you, yes. That means yes. I was like, okay. But in other situations, right? Her yes, I learned that I should have interpreted as no. So there was not stable ground at all. Okay? Or when she said no, just like my father, when I said no means no. But when I said no, you had to guess yes. So it was a confusion. So imagine computers supposed to like take a guess in one situation or another. That's difficult to operate, don't you think? That's where the hidden agenda of a lot of people come, right? Like, and the way how they assemble, they at times don't comprehend that it's actually working against them, right? Because there's an operator is given so much different things. So again, let's go back to this. So you have operator within the physical body. Within your physical body, there's veins, there's blood, right? You know, soul is within the blood. That's what the Bible says, right? So if that it, what is within blood that gets released? Hormones. Hormones affects you. It's like a drug, right? It's a substance that get released. It's a chemical, compound, whatever you want to label as. And then your physical body start reacting to it. And you start acting in the physical realm particular way. So if you learn a particular input, right? So imagine this. It's a simpler like this. So fundamentals. This is fundamental still. So you have, this is you, operator, okay? That's an operator. Now, this is your body, physical body, right? Now, anything there's an input, that's from external. Now, once the input comes from the external, something happens here. Biological processes. And guess what? From input, depending how you as an operator work, you're gonna produce output. Okay? Now, you have to understand, you have to know what kind of input does what to you. And sometimes you don't know until you learn, right? But there's, if you don't have a comprehension how certain things, the inputs, which is, the input has a code, has a program, right? To do something. Imagine it's kind of like a card that you place into the laptop, right? You insert it. And then within that card, you input it, right? Now, it gives the program, right? Maybe it's just a PDF file. So when you open it, you have like images, right? And let's say those images are of, I don't know, what do you like? I don't know, talks about gold, money, right? Or a beautiful car, a beautiful woman. And now the operator, right? Because he has also internal processes, mechanism that gets affected. So depending on the input, so yeah, you can inject yourself with poison, right? And different type of poison can be, you can train yourself. But if you learn that, hey, each time, even a small dosage, that if I do, trying to train my body, I'm still weak against it. You have to divide your input into two categories. It's either way you're ally or enemy. Okay? So ally will, either way, ally is your positive thing. Enemy is the opposite, right? It will take more from you than it will give it to you. So you have to know that, hey, my input is either way ally or my enemy. So whatever is the input. So if your end result become the negative, and we'll get to that level too, because that's a very important element to comprehend, because not everything that is a loss, it would be considered as an enemy. And I'll explain that later on. Not everything that looks positive, eventually overall, if you accumulate in a huge amount, it could be basically your enemy. Overall, is it allows you to, does it contribute as a positive way, or does it contributes in a negative way? Okay? So this community is for the allies, because I want to contribute in a positive way for this world. Okay? Now, once the input comes in, processes, biological processes are happening, right? So the code, right? Your mental space, boom. The information you saw, the news you heard said, hey, your loved one died in a car crash. Boom. Hormone released, right? Because something triggered within that, okay? And boom, you're in full rage. Your emotions, your levels of different hormones, imbalances within you. So you're no longer balanced. And then output could be rage on the road. You could be trying to go get back at somebody, right? You might be making purchases to make yourself feel better. You might be eating sugar because sugar releases, right, a hormone within your body. And here's the thing, you can call those things. You want to feel good, right? But here's the thing, those things that happen, you're like, well, why did it happen? And that's where the fundamentals comes in. And fundamentals, like, we have to break it into many different elements, right? Like piece by piece. So when you construct it back, you have better comprehension of how things are set up. This is my findings. This is what I operate based on, right? And then you can see, so fundamentally is this. Let's go to basic. That's a fat baby. Healthy baby, they say. Observing. That's a fundamental element. Once the operator gets into the physical body, the operator uses what he has or she has, whatever you want to call it. He, she. This operator feels, right? It's something new data coming in, okay? That's an input. Because the external, he has to connect. If he's in the physical body is your vessel, right? You are not the body. You are not your nails. You are not your hair, right? You can cut the hair. It might change your appearance and how you look and how it makes you feel inside, right? That's a very important element. But that's an input. Those are inputs, okay? Those are the programs that affects you in one way or another. But then you as an operator, you can either fight against it, right? Like, or you try, and fighting is not really fighting. It just basically you try to comprehend certain things. So you're like, well, no, I still gonna do it my way. Because internally, esoterically, internally, you either have a comprehension or you're like, well, I want to test it. And when you have lack of awareness what you are at the core, I am the energy within this physical body. That's what I am, the operator. I'm operating whatever this body has. Vocalized, teeth, hair, right? This body. And I found a blanket to put over myself. Okay? I'm using this camera, using what I've obtained, which is understanding and utilizing the words, what you guys call words. But for me, it's an instrument. Okay? It's an instrument that I can use consciously with knowledge. And each word that I present to you, it's to communicate effectively. It's a very compact information. Okay? So I ask you to give yourself time to get with the basic fundamental, because it's only gonna get deeper. But fundamentally, we have yet to touch a surface, right? We're maybe touching the dust, that we're not even scraping the surface, okay? Because the depth of this whole thing, you have to have understanding of external and internal. Internal, external, positive, negative, darkness, light, good, evil. But it's deeper than that, because those you probably have done some research. You have, tapped into certain things. You have experienced certain different things. But here's the thing. A very important element is the fundamentals. Before we can even proceed further, drawing this, your brain can see pattern, right? Now, just because your brain can see pattern, what is really language? See, for me, language, the words that I use, each word is a container. Within a container, I place a different substance, a program, a material to carry, okay? Imagine this. This particular color, let's say the same containers, right? But imagine this, it was red when you were drawing, completely different color. It would be like, well, that's confusing, right? Because that's not associating accurately with what it represents. But that's how words are, right? People don't know what's within the words are placed, and they put full trust without determining what words are, how they were created, how they were organized, why they are the way they are, who assigns a prescription to them, right? Who provides the label, so why is the look, if I remove, you got H, right? Now that forms a completely different idea. But here's the thing, in combination of different letters, and that's a depth that we need to discuss, right? The language, the how it all became. Because once we're gonna communicate using, so to speak, words, vocalizing, you need to have a better comprehension so you're not afraid of what you have in your possession. Because if you're afraid of what you have in possession, you're not gonna use it effectively. If you're afraid of what is available to you, you're probably never gonna enter that realm, okay? I'm here to guide you through elements that it becomes essential, because your words are essential in many different ways. Because what do you do with words? You're not just associating or assigning a meaning, or somebody assigning, you memorize it and you're like, okay, I associate this with this. Look, what am I doing right now? What about now? What about now? So you associate this with A, right? Okay, cool. But let me continue. Oh, some of you will associate this symbol right here, okay? But now, you might associate this with something else. Interesting. But if we were to remove certain things, what do you get? Okay. What about now? What about now? So for somebody, and some afraid of this, right? Triangle, we call it square, circle. So each pattern has effect on the operator. All depends how you use it. All depends how you organize it. All depends the amount of knowledge, experience, and by the way, knowledge and information is not the same exact thing. Please, just because you're getting informed, it's not the same thing as actual experience. Knowledge is knowing now, in the current present now moment. That's what knowledge is. Practical, what you possess that you can actually deploy at any given time. If I can go use my hand, take a knife, cut myself, let's say, a tomato, I have a knowledge. I know in the current present moment I have access to it, to use it. Okay? Just because I'm using words. That's why I said esoteric. A lot of people are going to be so afraid of it. But that's what I want, right? Calling this community esoteric, right? And then you have exoteric. A lot of people not even aware of the word exoteric, believe it or not. A lot of people in Christianity, they like esoteric, that's demonic, that's evil. And I used to think that that's it too, because I associate it with Christianity. But I wanted to know why they believe what they believe, how they believe, what is belief, right? Belief are the ideas. Beliefs are the ideas. Belief can go as far as the light can go, right? Look, belief. You see lie? Be lie. So belief can go as far as the light can go. That's what I've learned. And what is the beliefs? They're actually, and then maybe that's a down the line, but they're actually ideas. And what are ideas? They're mental constructs. And mental constructs imagine you're born like this, empty board. And you as a child, you can start here and basically go straight. Boom. That's what you want to get, right? Now, guess what happens to an adults, teenagers, most kids? For you to get here, you start here. You're like, well, I can just go and get it. What I end up doing? Mental constructs. You're starting here, boom. Somebody say, hey, no, you can't go there. So you're like, okay, I'm gonna go here. Somebody said, well, no, you can't go here. So you start going here. You're like, well, I can go here. And somebody says, well, no, you're gonna here. You can't go here, right? So now your choice is to either go here or go here, right? Even though your goal, initially you could have just went straight and get it, right? So mental constructs is to direct your energy so your operator would operate like zigzags, right? Because for somebody, for convenience, right? And there's more components to this, right? Imagine you going here first and somebody says, well, no, I'm not gonna allow you to go. You're gonna get punished. So once you go back here, you go back here, right? Imagine how much energy you already wasted. Now, you're either have to go here, or you're like, okay, let me go back to point this, right? Or you break through and you still keep going, right? A lot of people will not go here because there's a lot of elements that goes in. That's your internal realm, okay? If you're lucky enough, if you do recognize that, hey, it's a mental construct, but in actuality, I don't know, right? So you go through it and boom, you get into a particular desirable state much quicker. But there's a lot more to this component because it comes down to your faith, your belief, your mental constructs, your energy, your abilities, your powers, support system that you might have, right? And it goes deeper than this. So a lot of times, even if you were to do this, and like, boom, sometimes you can't even reach this point because could be a divine element that preventing you, because they're like, no, you're gonna learn a lot of things depending on your purpose on this planet, okay? So fundamentally, we need to still discuss language model vocalizing the words, the symbols before we can even go any deeper, because I would like to begin with the operator, what the operator has the access to, and then we can talk to about the external things too, about money, about the other players, okay, certainly events, emotions, energy, time, right? The exchange, the happening, right? Your time for exchange of dollars and dollars for exchange of time, right? Uh, it's interesting. It's interesting. So I will leave this introduction for the fundamentals, because you can see that depth of this, it's even deeper than this. That's why, like, this is very deep, but again, some of you may have already got past this. And I want to introduce slowly and build the foundation, right, from the basic fundamentals. Because what we're gonna do, our goal, what I end up doing, I completely reset myself, and I was stuck basically. I felt like I was stuck in an adult body, being a child. Imagine that. That was a painful, and it took a lot of time, energy to actually restructure. But imagine this: you're building a house, okay? This is your foundation, right here. Boom. This is foundation maybe your parents gave you, religion gave you, other people who surround you, depending on the foundation that you received. Now, each year, 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, 4 year, 5, 6, 7, 8, right? Each year is basically, imagine a house you're building, boom, you continue building, right? 9, 10, 11, each year. So year one, right? Imagine this level is now not 12, but let's say it's a 17. You turn 17. But you observe that each year, so it's a block that you built, right? And in some blocks, you see that, let's say each day it's a block. It's what you build your life with. Daily, hourly, minute, right? It goes second, right? Minute, hour, week, month, year, decade, lifetime. So some of you build positive, right? You see positive things, but you also see some negative things. So the goal is to try to remove as many negative things so your life can be more predictable. Don't create seconds into minutes, minutes into hours, hours into weeks, weeks into months. Don't create them into what you don't want to do. Create seconds, minutes, hours, hours into weeks, weeks into month, month into year, year into decades, decades into lifetime. To obtain positive life, right? Positive outcome, desirable. Or you can get the negative, right? So what I observed by building the life, following basically on a foundation, it was very shaky foundation, by the way. Why? Because each year I observed that some of these blocks are negative, right? Like it's not a positive output. My input right? Like, so if my input is positive, it should be positive output, okay? But it's more complex than this. And but basically, simply, I try to give you guys the basic fundamental that once you build a bunch of negative stuff, and imagine it's like built out of the blocks, and then those blocks are gonna crumble, right? The support of this whole entire structure of your entire life, you live life, imagine you're 55 and you're like, it's shaking, and then like your relationship, your financial, your health, everything like start like changing, right? Like, and you're like, what's going on? Because there's two energies, there's a positive, there's negative energy, right? And then depending what's your foundation, what's your building built, right? Here you might have a lot of negative, right? So like the building is like, you can only build so much, or you can try and make those corrections here, right? But for me, I decided, you know what, instead of continue try making correction here, here, right? I feel like at one point my life gonna be ruined, in ruins. So I decided, you know, before I can do that, I'm just gonna destroy myself completely, right? So I even had to inspect, once I did this, this is how it felt. It felt like I was falling down, right? And then I went beyond the foundation, right? And for a lot of time, it felt like waves. I don't know if I was on top of it or I was underneath this water, right? That's how it felt. And I was trying to find something stable. And then I physically had to touch my hands, physical hands, touch the grass, rocks, wall. To us, like, okay, I recently, the reset was a very interesting, but it's a very dangerous, I would say, extremely dangerous position to be in. So maybe down the line, eventually, I will share this, how I made this reset. But if you make this reset, there's no, I couldn't go back, let's just say that, to, I just couldn't. Let's just leave it to that. And then once I start finding, I had to build my foundation, right? I had to build piece by piece. I start over, right? But before I could do that, I had to find and test the ground, what I'm standing on. And what I'm standing on, where am I at? Physical realm, right? So then the idea came, hey, if I'm in the physical realm, whatever you want to call it, let's just call this physical realm. It doesn't matter. Just give me some type of label to better organize it. So I become the user of understanding, comprehending how certain things are, but also I became to give directive, right? I began to give directive to myself, right? The operator. The operator, I was like, okay, I made the decision, boom. I reset, right? The foundation, it's gone. Now I'm testing the, and I had to determine where I am at. So physical realm, reality, whatever you want to call it, right? So, but you have to understand that word reality doesn't come in first. It's second. Whatever I observe, I can assign a label. Just like this. You see this color, but then you, right here, doesn't have it. It says dry erase, expo, low odor. But it's a self-explanatory. See, it doesn't say. Interesting. I did not know. Very, very interesting though. So you recognize the color, okay? So, and that's how I began, you know. So, and then labeling, let's say black, I call it black because it's easy. It's in alignment with a lot of other players. So I don't overly confuse other people when I say, hey, black by actually mean white, right? So I try avoid certain things after testing because I've tested, I found interesting observations, and then I decide, hey, I'm gonna organize it the way how I see the life from even from where I'm building the ground, right? Like before I even was decided to build the foundation, it's like where am I building it? In a physical realm. So I decided to create a map, right? On where I found myself in, so I can better navigate in the realm, space, physical realm, whatever label you want to assign to it, whatever works for you personally, not for me. I'm explaining using the words that I comprehend, that I assign the meaning, right? Because like, and here's I'm communicating in terms that you can better comprehend and understand. So you're like, okay, it makes sense. So once I destroyed the foundation, it's a painful process, right? Because after that, I did not know what I had to do. It's a leap of faith that I placed an entire thing, and then once I went through it internally, I had nothing, nothing. And now I was able to build from observation and assigning the terminology labels. I said, okay, I'm gonna build the foundation. My foundation, something solid, something I can rely on. It's a stable ground. It's not that where I build it and I'm uncertain what's gonna happen if I do this or do that, right? I completely remove that structure because that it was shakeable, right? It was very unstable.